now the executive director of the Secular Coalition for America. So the Secular Coalition for America is based out in Washington, D.C. How many of you are like signed up for Secular Coalition for America action alerts or all right, not bad, not bad. So Secular Coalition for America, essentially what they are is that, and I hope I'm not giving like all their speech here, but that's okay. They are the lobbying wing of the secular movement. They are out there representing you in Congress and to and sometimes the Obama administration, and definitely like out in all the state legislatures as well. They are out there advocating for public policy which protects both separation of church and state, but also advocates specifically for the place of non-believers, of secular folks as valued members of society. That's an incredibly important and I understand difficult job for some reason. I guess like not everybody's down with some, I don't know. Not everybody can be right. So Larry's had a very distinguished career. He's spent years before being at the Secular Coalition for America, which is a role that he's only been in for 6 months now. All right, cool. So before that, he was the Director of Public Policy for the very efficiently named Friends of the Global Fight Against AIDS, Tuberculosis and Malaria. No secret agenda, I swear. Also he spent, I think, 8 years working for the American Red Cross. Larry is such an energetic, exciting, and like friendly guy. He's just always like bursting with energy, and that's really impressive. And I would assume that he has these really intense jobs where he's out like advocating, against malaria, not America, and is advocating for better government and secular government, and he's been working for the American Red Cross, which also has to be an incredibly draining job. So all of these things that just these are things that if I was doing that, I would think that you would have a relaxing pastime that you would use to recharge your batteries. And well, maybe Larry finds this relaxing, but his pastime is being a volunteer EMT in Maryland. So, just can't find enough to do. So out there saving lives and trying to, and he's told me some pretty amazing stories. I definitely recommend cornering Larry later. Don't literally corner him, okay? But walk up to him and politely introduce yourself and be like, oh my gosh, tell me stories about being an EMT. Or better yet, and I hope Larry doesn't get angry at me for this, better yet, ask him about his favorite aunt and a story. Oh, God. And a story that he might have about his favorite aunt. So with no further ado, please join me in welcoming Larry Decker.
Gatorade. Can I move this a little bit? Is that okay?
Yeah.
And I also am bringing a fan. I don't know. I'm overheated today. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, actually. Good morning. Good morning, students of reason. As August said, I've been with the movement just about 6 months. I'm new to the movement and new to the Secular Coalition for America. I love both. And I said to a group of people where I came from last, which I'll tell you about in a second, that I feel more at home in this movement than I have ever felt anywhere in my life. And I thank each and every one of you for that, because every single person I meet in this movement, I love it. I'm not a morning person, and as a matter of fact, do you all know Casey? Casey, are you here? Are you in the room? There he is, he's just walking in. Casey Brescia is our communications associate rather. I'm sorry, he handles all of our social media and a lot of our contacts with national and local media in Washington, D.C. He's a great asset to us. But I sent him a text message this morning on my way here because I'm such not a morning person, I thought I'd pick on him. And I said, are you there? And he didn't respond, but if he had, what I was gonna say was, dude, I overslept. You have to give my presentation. Just to scare him a little bit. Right now, Donald Trump might say that I'm low energy. He might call me Jeb Bush. I don't know. He can call me whatever he wants. Anyway, it's great to be here, even at this early hour. And I think that, in fact, this group might be the most important group of people I speak to this year. And I say that because you're the future of our country, and I know that that sounds cliche. And I'm sorry to make it sound so cliche, but it's true. And I'm going to touch on that in just a little bit. I want to start, though, from where I just came. I just came from Kentucky. I went to the Ark. Or what others might want to refer to as fundamentalist nonsense. Wow. I can't even put into place what that experience was. First of all, I have to give a shout out to the Tri-State Freethinkers. They did an amazing job. Callie back there, thank you. They did an amazing job putting together a protest and a rally in a short period of time. And it was well attended, and there was a great deal of energy. And one of the best things about where we were standing, it was right off the exit ramp, was the number of people that honked and gave us thumbs up. People are hungry in Kentucky. They're hungry across this country. They are sick and tired, like I am, of religious privilege getting in the way of my civil liberties, my civil rights, and your civil liberties, and your civil rights. $30 million in taxpayer money went to build or fund in one way, shape, or form that Ark. I don't even think that thing could float. I really don't. And they say they built it on biblical standards. I'm glad they had nuts and bolts back during Noah's Ark, because I don't think they did. I'm glad they had steel reinforcements, because I don't think they did. The thing that is so offensive about that, and I'm probably going to bounce around here, and I apologize, but this is a talk, right? So I'm okay. I don't know how to do the PowerPoint, so I don't even know how to use my iPhone. I can't send a tweet or whatever it's called. And the Facebook is just, I mean, I'm on there, but the problem is, like, when I get on the Facebook, it's usually like 3 in the morning, and I've been sitting at home watching like brain dead movies or something, drinking a bottle of wine. And then I get on there and I read things and I'm like, oh, I'm going to respond to that. And then the next morning, I have like 150 stupid comments like in my email. And I'm like, what did I do? So I really try to, actually I've gotten good at it, because I gave one person my password to my personal Facebook page. Casey has my password to my professional Facebook page. I don't know it. That's a good thing. But on my personal Facebook page, it used to be saved on my computer. So all I had to do was type facebook.com and it would pop up. So then I changed it and I gave someone the password, and I have no idea what it is now, which is a good thing. Because it's actually dangerous for me to be on social media. I think you should know how to use it before you try to do it. When we were there at the Ark, it's not just about the taxes. It's about the fact that they also have crazy discriminatory policies in their hiring. They make you sign a pledge that says Jesus is your Savior. If you sign it and then you do something that suggests that maybe he's not, I'm guessing you get fired. Even worse, if you're not married, they make you sign a pledge of celibacy until you're married. What the? Literally, right? So I asked this guy from the Ark, I said to him, I said, what about your hiring policies? They're discriminatory. He openly admitted, yes, they are. But they're legal. So I said, well, in the book of Matthew, Jesus says, the least that you that which you did not do for the least among us, you did not do for me. And I said, do you really think your Jesus thinks it's okay to discriminate just because it's legal? What the hell? What are these people thinking? They claim to have morality. They claim to say that God's law is more important than our law. except when our laws privilege them, and therefore they can do whatever they want. This is what I learned. I'm going to say this first. While we were there, we chanted this and listened to it, and then say it back with me. Gays, atheists, Catholic, Jews, you're not welcome on this cruise. Gays, atheists, Catholic, Jews, you're not welcome on this cruise. Friggin' thing's gonna sink anyway, so I'm glad I'm not on it. What I recognized, though, and it just became so apparent to me, someone who grew up in a Christian household, someone who still values aspects of the childhood that I had, and the fact that my parents were always secular, at least, and that they believed in a separation of church and state, and up until the age of 13, they didn't force things down my throat. Good parents, good people. What I recognized is that we're not the bad guys. We're not the ones judging. We're not the ones trying to limit civil liberties. They are. If you're a woman seeking access to abortion or to reproductive health, who the hell stands in your way? The church. If you're gay and you're getting married and you want to have a cake, religious bigotry stands in your way for certain bakers. If you're at the end of your life, at whatever age, and you want to take matters into your own hands, you want to die with dignity, it's the Catholic Church, it's the Knights of Columbus, no offense, that stands in your way. These are real issues that affect real people. And what does it do in this country? It creates opportunities for hate. 1 month to the day of the anniversary of Orlando, the House Government Reform and Oversight Committee, thank you, Chairman Chaffetz from Utah, is holding a hearing on a First Amendment defense bill, a federal bill that would make it legal to discriminate against marriage equality if you have a deeply held religious belief. 1 month from the anniversary where 49 people, gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, questioning people, and their supporters and allies were butchered, and 53 others were injured. It's not just that it's a stupid bill. When they do it, they create opportunities for hate. Hate against race, hate against gender, hate against sexual orientation, hate against gender identity and expression, even hate against religion. Because if you're not one of them, if you don't believe in their same God, you're evil. This is what's happening in our country. In states with these RFRA laws and these freedom, the First Amendment defense, that's the most bullshit thing I've ever heard. Seriously. They call that a defense of the First Amendment? When did these people lose their mind? You know, I think that the issue here is that we have to stop it. We have to reclaim words like religious freedom. Because the way they define it is not religious freedom. They define it as religious privilege. And the funny thing is that as they go through this and then something happens, they act surprised. Oh, 49 people were killed in a gay bar in Orlando. They don't have a right to be surprised. We can all be sad, but we can't be shocked. This is what religious privilege does in this country. I came out to my parents about 15 years ago, not as an atheist, but as gay. Can you all keep a secret? You know, the Secular Coalition for America hired me as an openly unaffiliated Christian. That was kind of another funny point. The guy, whatever his name is, Eric Hovind, thank you. He doesn't mean anything to me, so I don't really think that much about him, but he was there the other day. And he said, you know, would David Silverman hire me as an atheist, would he hire me at American Atheists? No. And I yelled back at him and I said, the Secular Coalition hired me. So the secret is, I came out to my parents last weekend as an atheist. It's a secret because I haven't told my board yet. And I know they took bets when I took this job as to how long it would take before I went from being an unaffiliated Christian to an atheist. So it's not public yet, but this is stop it. Do not tweet that. Casey, shut the Twitter off. But this is why it's important. This is why this audience is so important. When I came out to my parents, I'm the youngest of 7 kids. I grew up on a dairy farm in rural upstate New York. I grew up a Baptist until I was 13, and I raised my hand during church because that idiot standing up there giving a sermon made no sense to me. And I asked him a question. He was talking about euthanasia, or what we call death with dignity, or end-of-life choice. And he said, we don't have the right to play God and end someone's life. So I casually raised my hand. You know, my mother looked at me and she's like, what are you doing? And I asked him, I said, aren't we playing God when we keep people alive by artificial means? He had no answer for me. But I thought it was a perfectly fair question. I mean, early in his sermon, he was like, you have to be in favor of the death penalty, you have to, you know, be anti-gays, you have, like, all of these things, anti-abortion, you know, and he finally got on this one, and it's always been a sticky subject for me, because I believe so wholeheartedly that it is a complete civil liberties issue. And so I had to raise my hand. It was 1988, was the year that Michael Dukakis was in an election against George Herbert Walker Bush. And I just felt like I had to say something. So after the sermon, he comes up to me and he says, I don't know that you should come here anymore. And I looked at him and I said, I have no problem with that. But my journey's been going on. But anyway, let's go back. When I came out to my parents 15 plus years ago as being gay, it was a hard thing. I mean, I was struggling with my faith. I was struggling with just about everything. You know, it was the most selfish thing I'd ever done. I was going to break my college sweetheart's heart, my best friend in the world, and she's still my best friend in the world, which is great. I had to look at my best friend and basically say, I can't be with you anymore. I was going to break my parents' heart because they wanted babies. And yes, I can, as a gay man, have babies, but I also decided I'm not really a fan of children, but that's an issue. I thank my older siblings for having children to help me along in that conversion. But it was selfish, but at the same time, it was the most selfless thing I could do. Because to live a life of a lie would kill me. And when I came out to my parents, they weren't necessarily happy. There's a funny story behind that, but I know we're running on time, and I don't want to go over. But you know, the thing is that it forced them to face something that perhaps they hadn't had to face before, which was their views on the LGBTQ community. We didn't have the Q then. We have the Q now. I think it was actually then the GLBT community, but the lesbians trumped us. So it's not the gay lesbian trans. It's now the lesbian gay, which I think is right. But you know, it also forced them to do something else. It forced them to think that here's our son who identifies as a part of a community that we've never liked, we've never embraced, but we love him. So now, how can we say we hate that entire community? They can't. And within a year, after my entire family found out, and the extended family found out, in a small rural town in upstate New York, my parents were then telling their friends, oh yeah, my nickname is Bumper, right? It's terrible, right? Yeah, Bumper's gay. Really? Are you shocked? I mean, come on. It forces people to change their perceptions of communities. Coming out as being openly atheist, or secular, or humanist, or agnostic is important. Not just to change the perceptions of other people. It is important for your own self-efficacy, your own self-worth, your ability to stand proud. I cannot tell you how important personal identity is. And if anyone ever says to you, why do you have to push that in my face? Then push harder. Because that's how you change people's minds and hearts. Push harder. Don't ever let anyone take that from you. And if we do that, we can change this country. They can't dislike us or hate us as much, even if they think we're heathens, even if they think we're going to hell. Well, that's wonderful, because I get to have a wonderful party with all my friends, because we're all going to hell, right? If I believed in such a thing. I want to spend just a couple of minutes talking about one other thing, and then I want to stop and let you ask questions of me if you would like to. What I want to talk about, essentially, is those phrases, religious freedom. Religious right has taken over that phrase. They've defined it in a way that is palatable to the American public, because most of the American public, when there's a religious privilege law, they don't think about how it affects them, because they may be, white or straight, or middle-aged, or have a good career. They may be, a halfway Christian, or they go to church. They do, they just don't think about it. They don't think about their best friend who may be in a same-sex relationship. They don't think about their cousin who may be in a multiracial relationship. They don't think about their daughter necessarily right offhand, who may one day need to seek access to reproductive health care. They think, oh yeah, you know what, I mean, yeah, the gays can get married, we have all these other, so let's like if the Christians don't want to engage in it, then that's fine. We have to remind them why it's important. And I think the way that we do that is to talk about our shared secular values. We believe in things too. We believe in things like freedom, equality, inclusion, and knowledge. When I was at the Ark this past week, I realized the Ark did not believe in any of those four things. The Ark did not believe in freedom. They certainly don't believe in inclusion. They believe in equality if you believe in Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior. And this man literally thinks that dinosaurs lived among men. So, clearly they don't believe in knowledge. They have saddles on dinosaurs. Like, we used to ride them. Are you kidding me? They have giraffes that are this tall. Wait. Wow, I'm a monster. When we talk about our shared secular values, the one thing that we can do is we can make clear that, my mother, I was giving a speech this morning, I love her. She's a nut job. But we make it clear to the religious right when we talk about our values, freedom, inclusion, equality, knowledge, that the religious right does not have a trademark on values in this country. Their values call for exclusion, not inclusion. Clearly, their values are not based on science, logic, or reason. Ours are derived from science, logic, and reason. Their values seek to limit the civil liberties of Americans, while ours celebrate freedom for all. Their values promote inequality in our country. We embrace full equality under the law. This is, you know the funny thing, this is what really kills me. Ken Ham, is that his name? Yeah. He was a science teacher in Australia, is that correct? And then he came to this country. I think the only science that he actually probably ever learned was like, I don't know, indoctrination. I'm glad he didn't teach me biology. I'd be a damn bad EMT. They then cry that our protest this past week was an attack on Christianity. Boo-hoo. You know, when equality feels like oppression, it must be restored by laws that make the First Amendment irrelevant. You know that your religion is privileged. I don't fight against religion. People have a right to believe what they want. And we are a big country with a very diverse population. But I fight against religion when it impacts my life in a way that it should not. They have no right, any religion whatsoever, has no right to embark on the way you want to live your life. And in the 6 months that I've been doing this, and I'll kind of close on this, there's no doubt, August made a joke about it, like, it's easy work. We all know it's not. And I always said when I turned 40 last May, I wanted to do something easy for the second half of my career. So I thought I'd go work for the secular movement. Really, really very easy. Did you raise a sign yet? Oh no, I'm good, okay. This is the most important work I'll ever do. And it's everything I ever wanted to do because it's about civil rights, it's about civil liberties. It's about protecting people. You know, for the 20 years I've been in Washington, every piece of legislation I've ever looked at, I've asked myself the question in my advocacy for it. What's it do for the next generation? Because if we think about public policy from that standpoint, we're always going to do the right thing. And I've convinced some lawmakers that perhaps they should do that as well. And others, they just kind of look at me and laugh. And that's everything from tax policy. You know, what should we do with tax policy? To hurricane relief, you know, and the Stafford Act at the American Red Cross. What does it do for the next generation? Because everything I do in Washington today, is going to affect a lot more of your tomorrows than mine, because I'll be dead, right? I think it's important that we look at how we can make a difference in this country and the electorate in creating an actual secular voting bloc. And I think the way that we go after the religious privilege laws in this country is by talking about values. Because if you think about it, let me just say them one more time. Freedom, inclusion, equality, knowledge. Our values as secular Americans are in fact American values, and they are more American than what the religious right spews out every single day. I'm going to stop here. I'm going to simply say that it's an honor to be here and to talk with each of you. And let you ask me any questions if you have any. Except, thank you. I may be going through a little menopause, I'm not sure. It's so hot. Yes?
Just kind of a question. This is something I've been arguing a lot about lately. I still haven't really formed an opinion. With the incident of the cake decorators, for example, the big argument is whether or not those facilities are part of the public space or not.
Right.
And that's the, I mean, you understand probably better than I do. So something that I've heard a debate between is the bodily autonomy versus the protection of the public or the inclusion. So how do you deal with that? Because I can imagine, like, if I had a cafe, for example, and neo-Nazis like coming in on a regular basis and their conversations created an environment that I didn't want my store to be associated with. Mm-hmm. I would still want the ability, even though it's public space, to try to get them out. But how do you deal with that, or are there any arguments or any divides you see between that, or how do you handle those debates?
Well, thank you for the easy question. I appreciate that. There was a case that was decided, I think, a week or two ago about the KKK wanting to have a sign that says, like, the you know, what are they called? Like, you know, the Keep the Highway Beautiful sign, where they do the mile or 2 miles of Adopt a Highway, thank you. And the ACLU defended the KKK in that case. You know, oftentimes we're challenged, and this is part of what makes things difficult, because even if we don't agree, we have to recognize what it means under the law. And you know, there's the old adage, and I may not agree with what you have to say, but I will fight to my death for your right to say it. When we look at public accommodations in business and in the private sector, largely, we have to recognize that there is a First Amendment defense for any person. Now, if I was a cake owner and a straight couple wanted to come in who was getting married in a Baptist church and having a revival or something, I'd make their cake. The fact of the matter is that the laws, the way that they're written today and where they're popping up in various states, have less to do with public accommodation in terms of what it really means, and more to do with just carving out an exception to the public accommodations requirements based on religious belief. And that's what we have to fight against. I mean, I understand your point. I think the ACLU does a tremendous job of, it's hard for a lot of people often to understand, why would you represent that interest for which you absolutely don't believe? But you do it because the same reason that I feel like I have to fight for the freedom of and the freedom from religion, and the same reason that I feel I have to fight for the separation of church and state, because it's the best guarantee for freedom. And ultimately, when you think about it, the work that we do to guarantee the separation of church and state helps the Christian community also. It protects them. They don't see it. But I mean, think about it. Today, they claim we're a Christian nation. What if tomorrow we're something else? What's going to happen to them? All of those religious privilege laws are now going to go to privilege a different religion. And they'll find themselves in the minority. And, you know, with the exponential growth rate of people walking away from religion in this country, it's not too far away. The last thing I want to say about that, though, is that, you know, as we've advanced on civil liberties issues in this country, you know, we go, it's like 2 steps forward, 1 step back. It was hard for me to celebrate marriage equality last year because the day before, they gutted the Civil Rights Act, the Voting Rights Act. So it was hard for me to be happy. I mean, my community, yeah, great. I can get married if I want. I don't want to. I'm in a relationship, but I don't want to get married. Sorry, Rob, wherever you are. But, you know, the other big issue about it is, every time we take advances forward, especially on social progress, the religious right doubles down. They kind of threw in the towel and said, all right, we lost gay marriage. But now in 32 states, we're going to try to deny a woman's right to choose. We're going to deny access to reproductive health. And thank goodness the court made the right decision this past week. Okay. Take that, you conservatives. Other questions? Yes?
Just kind of going off what he was saying, like you had a white supremacist group coming into your shop. It just kind of reminded me of a story with you talking about the KKK. A little south of St. Louis in Missouri, there's a stretch of highway that exact same thing happened to. The chapter tried to adopt it. So some civil rights activists in our government renamed the highway the Rosa Parks Freeway. And the KKK then refused to pick up the stretch of highway.
It's brilliant. And
therefore are banned for life from ever adopting another stretch of highway. So to answer that, if you have a cake shop, make it
I saw more hands. Oh gosh, lots of hands. Please. Whoever was next, I can't tell.
I don't know. All right.
Go for it.
Do you feel like, as the religious right seems to lose more battles, that we're becoming a little more desperate and ever more encroaching than they were in past years? Because it seems like they kind of are. In your experience, would you say that that's accurate?
I think it's 100% accurate. I think that in their acts of desperation, they will do anything to impugn people's rights and to make it seem like they're the victim. They're the victim. And for whatever reason, well, I mean, Donald Trump is getting nominated, so maybe that has something to do with it. But, for whatever reason, the American people go along with it. We're talking about a very small minority of people who have a big voice and who are well organized and who have lots of money. Lots of money. And it amazes me that here we are with 23%, 60 million Americans, and we don't have a single out atheist member of Congress. We don't have any representation in Washington, D.C. Now, we have a list of 30 or 35 members who are actually atheist, some form of non-theist. But they're not out, they're not public. So yeah, I think that as we continue to progress, they will continue to dig their heels in more and more and more. And that's why the Supreme Court appointment is so imperative. That's why the next president is so imperative, because of the Supreme Court. Oh, stop.